All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our SEAC meeting for Monday, April the 13th. We will start our meeting off tonight with our land acknowledgement of traditional territory, and this evening we have Catherine Horlings is going to share that with us.
Simcoe County District School Board acknowledges that we are situated on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe people. The Anishinaabe people include the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people.
Great, thank you very much. All right, so next up on our agenda, we do have our SEAC statement of beliefs, and tonight we have Sarah Ferguson who's going to read that for us.
Based on our belief in respect, leadership, integrity, collaboration, compassion, student-driven services, and the right of all students to be included, we advocate that all students have equitable opportunities to learn and participate in inclusive school communities. They are supported in developing and maintaining relationships and participating in freely chosen activities and groups that result in a sense of belonging. Students' unique learning styles are recognized and planned for in a caring and sensitive manner, enabling them to learn and participate with dignity and respect. Student strengths and special education needs are identified and responded to early, as this is paramount to their growth and development. Based on best practices and research, the Simcoe County District School Board will adopt proactive, innovative practices to promote individual student capacities and gifts while addressing their special education needs. Education services are delivered using a collaborative and flexible process centered on strengths and needs of the students, inclusive of family, school, and community, and based on the best learning outcomes for the student. The student's voice is key to all decisions made on behalf of and with the student.
Great, thank you very much, Sarah. Okay, so next up on our agenda, we do have our roll call. So we do have some guests this evening. We do have Trustee Grummett and Trustee Foley joining us, so thank you very much. We also have former principal with our board and back helping us out, Stephen McClellan. So very nice to see you again. Very nice to have you here. We do have some delegates that we are welcoming as well. So they were attached in our package and names and everything are included, but I just do want to welcome our delegates that are here in person. Well, in person, virtual. So we have Matthew Lawson, Lori Gray and Matthew. We have Patrick McAnally and Juliet Sharon and Sky B. So welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us. We do have regrets this evening from Amanda Burton and Mitch Berry as well. Okay, so to start off, we would need to approve our agenda. So do I have a mover to approve the agenda as written this evening? I see Trustee Lloyd, seconded by Kevin. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments about the agenda? Okay, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Sorry, like I said, I'm having a bit of a lag tonight, so I'm not seeing people's hands go up right away. So sorry for my delay. Okay, so next up would be our minutes. So it would be looking for a mover to approve the minutes from our March SEAC meeting. Do I have a mover for that? Not seeing any hands. Sorry. If anyone wants to verbally say, like I said, everyone's kind of frozen for me.
Barry's
Oh, now I'm
waving his
seeing Andrea.
hands.
Thank you. Okay, okay, so we'll say moved by Andrea, seconded by Kevin. Sorry, guys, I didn't realize my internet was so crummy today. So moved by Andrea, seconded by Kevin. Thank you very much. Any questions or comments on the minutes? And again, if I'm not seeing you, please feel free to interrupt and speak up. Okay, so it looks like I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do we have any declaration of conflict of interest this evening? All right, so again, I'm not seeing any, but I have lots of frozen faces, so feel free to speak up if anything changes along the way. Okay, but that will take us to our presentations and delegations. So we did just have some delegations last meeting, so I do believe our committee is familiar with our process. But to our delegates, we will be starting off with Matthew Lawson. So Mr. Lawson, whenever you are set to go, so you will have 10 minutes to give your presentation, and then committee members will have 10 minutes for a chance for questions of clarification on your presentation. Superintendent Greg Jacobs will be timing you. Greg, if you want to give a little wave there, so you know what to watch for, Matthew. Just keep an eye out. Greg will wave at you when you have 2 minutes left, just to let you know there. Okay. And IT has pulled up your is pulling up your PowerPoint there, I believe. So whenever you're ready, sir, you can feel free to get started.
Thank you to the chair and the committee members. I really appreciate you making time for everyone. I know there's a number of delegations, so I will try and be as brief as I can and not use the full 10 minutes, as I know all of you, I'm sure, have other things to do. And there are many more articulate people than I to talk about this topic tonight. So just appreciate everyone making time. I want to start, if we move to the next slide within the package, just about why I'm here. So my belief is the Special Education Advisory Committee should be playing a much more active role in evaluating this proposed change for the upcoming 26-27 school year, as well as the likely forward-looking outlook of this program eventually ending. Unfortunately, from my perspective, I see this as detrimental to student success. And for me, what's key is that there has been no parent or community engagement before this recommendation reached this table. I am personally impacted by this. I have two of my 3 children are in grade 4 and grade 6, and they are in a congregated gifted classroom. And yes, be supported in that classroom going forward. However, I'm worried about the students that come after them and what that would look like. Both of my children in their homeschool had varied experiences. They had everything from being bullied for being different to being marked by their educators as underperforming and not at grade level. So I've been engaged with the school board since February 11th to seek to understand the recommendations that came to this committee on February 9th. And unfortunately, I've had limited success in really getting to understand what this decision is about. So if we go to the next slide, really what this is my experience to date. So reaching out to the trustee, to staff, and the MPPs locally. On February 20th, I've put the excerpts from the emails that I received, which is that this change was a result of a financial constraint. When subsequently reaching out to my MPP, and I know many parents reached out to their own, were advised that there has been no ask for SCDSB associated with funding associated with this program. And that's deeply concerning to me. So if we keep going on to the next slide, really many parents have gotten different answers around this being Ministry of Education directed. I think it's important for this committee to note that the Ministry of Education also identified that they are not responsible for setting this direction at school boards, and that none of the school boards that are under supervision currently have proposed this direction for congregated gifted classrooms. And personally unaware of any school board that has successfully done this with congregated programs, and really do want to urge this committee to, pose those questions back. Staff have talked about this plan to support gifted learners through professional development, centralized enrichment activity, but really we haven't seen any of that as parents. Typically, I would experience that if there was a proposed change, you would talk about what the future is going to look like first, engage with parents and communities about that, and then implement the change. This seems to have been done in the complete opposite manner, where the change has been recommended to this committee and then implemented, but really we haven't seen what the alternative is going to look like. I know there's a presentation later about that, but it just seems a little backwards to myself at this point, and really again urge this committee, which is tasked with being responsible for special education in the school board, to really give this a second look. And the other part of this, and we've heard this at both the trustee meetings and previous Special Education Advisory Committee meetings, that the cost of transportation is significant for this program. I would challenge that in that my third child currently goes to the 8th closest school to their home, and I was advised that we don't take into account transportation costs when making school area. So if we're not going to take it into account in decisions like that, then we really shouldn't take it into account when treating special education students that are very clearly outlined within the Education Act. And this is something that is really important in terms of what does that look like, and how are we not treating this in a different way because the setting is different. If we go to the next slide, I got to the point where, unfortunately, with a lack of answers, I completed a FIPA request. So for those that don't know, this is a Freedom of Information request available to the public, and requested a number of items from the school board, including any documents, recommendations, considerations, meeting minutes, analysis, emails, financial summaries, proposals. I received 2 documents back from that, both one from February 9th, the date that this was presented to committee, and one from February 16th. What it didn't yield was any discussion, internal emails, anything associated with this topic prior to coming to the Special Education Advisory Committee. And, this dates back 18 months from February 20th, which is quite concerning because, from my perspective, I would have thought there would have been a lot of discussion about a program that is potentially going to impact, I think roughly 50% of the gifted students are in congregated classrooms today. When we think that forward and what does that look like, it is quite concerning, especially given that roughly 18 months ago, we went the opposite way, adding additional classrooms in 2 new schools, one in Barrie and one in Bradford. So, really was hoping that there would be some information that would be available, but there was nothing available from the school board. That decision and the documents that were received that subsequently have been appealed to the Privacy Commissioner of Ontario for follow-up. We go to the next slide. Really what I'm seeking is just an open discussion. And I think that's what many parents have sought in this, is the school board identifies that this committee plays a vital role in ensuring that exceptional pupils, gifted, and other individuals with exceptionalities have access to the appropriate educational services and programs. We've been told this is an operational decision, but really I do view this as a key role of the Special Education Advisory Committee and something that you should play an active part in the discussion. And it is certainly troublesome that this has been dealt with in the way it has been to myself and to many parents. If we just go to the next slide, with a lack of information that's been provided, we worked out our own math. So at the March Special Education Advisory Committee, Superintendent Van Nispen advised that the program cost $2.1 million. At the March trustees meeting, we were told how many students were in the program, and the math works out that the $2.1 million over the cost or over the number of students is just under $9,000 per student. These are the numbers coming directly from the school board. When we go and match that with the education funding, just the average pupil funding, not including any special education enhancements, that number is closer to 12,000. So the math on this doesn't really work for me in terms of why are we looking at this program being disbanded. It is not something that is costing the school board money when you look at it based on the numbers that have been provided. Again, these are what's been provided in open committee, and these are based on the Ontario funding numbers that have been presented. So on the last slide, really, is just, if we go to the next one, just really the questions that I would propose this committee look at and ask, not necessarily myself, but ask yourselves, ask staff, ask trustees, what does this look like? Where have people been engaged? And yes, it's not legally required, but lots of things aren't legally required that are still ethically and morally the right thing to do. And really do want this committee to look at that and evaluate those things openly. and engage in an active and open dialogue with parents who are very interested in understanding this decision and really feel like we have not had a transparent dialogue to date. So I will really leave it with you with that and stop my time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawson. Okay, if I could just there we go. I was just waiting for that to come down so I can see everyone's faces. Okay, so at this time, do we have any questions from our committee? And please, if you have your hand up and I'm not seeing, please speak up because like I said, everyone is really freezing for me. Okay, so Trustee Strawn, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm sorry I don't have my camera on today. I am engaged in listening and just not able to be on screen because I'm not in front of my computer at a desk. So I'm sorry for that, but I didn't want to send my regrets. I thought this was important conversation. My question is just related to the cost piece. And I heard the delegate mention a cost of $9,000 per student and versus like a $12,000 funding. And I'm not sure if maybe the delegate could provide some clarity on that, or perhaps Superintendent Jacobs could provide some clarity on that. Perhaps Chair Rafik, you can help direct the question for an answer.
Absolutely. I would say we could pose the question to our delegate and maybe for some deeper explanation. And then we can have some conversation further in the meeting with that we could ask Superintendent Jacobs that question as well. But just with our delegation process, I believe our questions should be directed at our delegate right now. So Mr. Lawson, if you have something, please go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair to the trustee. The information actually comes from the videos of this Special Education Advisory Committee meeting in March, where Superintendent Van Nispin mentioned $2.1 million as the cost of the congregated gifted classrooms. And the number of pupils comes from the March trustee meeting, where Superintendent Jacobs provided that number to the Board of Trustees. The $12,000 per pupil funding is directly from the 24-25 funding information from the Ontario government, and the link has been provided in the notes circulated to this committee.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up, Trustee Strong?
No, thanks for that clarification. And maybe I'll just save my other questions for the time in the meeting when it's the time to ask the questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Any other questions for Mr. Lawson? Trustee Lloyd, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Lawson, for coming tonight and expressing your concerns and opinions. I did just want to address with you one of the comments you made in your presentation related to Mr. Doug Downey, your local MPP. It's quite concerning to me because special education funding is something that's been talked about provincially. It's been talked about locally. We've sent letters, addressing funding shortfalls, and some of our education partners have written papers about, special education being in crisis. So could you please give me greater clarity on what he said to you with respect to that? Because it's certainly not what's happened. It's not what's been shared. It's, MPPs have been copied on these letters. And I just would like to clarify what he actually said to you, if possible.
Mr. Lawson, please go ahead.
Through the chair to trustee, the notes were included with a direct quote in the email back from MPP Downey's office. I think the specific component is, furthermore, we have not heard from the school board for any request to increase funding for the gifted program. So given that the initial response I received back on February 20th was that this was a result of fiscal challenges, it was surprising to me as a constituent that if there are funding challenges and the school board believes it's the right thing to do, that would be the first step to advocate. So those are indirect emails to me, and I'm happy to circulate them through the chair to any member of this committee or others as you see fit.
Thank you very much. Follow-up, Trustee Lloyd?
No, thank you for the clarity. I'm just very surprised considering it's, the gifted program falls within special education, and there's been so much work and so much effort put into lobbying for additional spec ed funding. And, the recent budget did not increase special education funding, nor has it, the current minister talked about it or expressed any concern with respect to it as well. So, but thank you for providing that clarity. And I would like to see those emails if you could share them with me, please.
Thank you. Kevin, I see your hand up. Please go ahead.
I'm addressing something that's been mentioned by a number of people in their delegations, the written ones, and that's the lack of SEAC's involvement. As a committee, we get information from administration, and we give our input back, and we have discussions about it. That's the process that's going on right now. So it's not that SEAC has been pushed to the side. We are actually heavily involved both in these meetings and also many of us outside of these meetings, trying to get all the information to have the discussions so we can put forward our views. So it's not like the board is trying to push us to the side or that the committee has abandon its obligation. What you are sitting in is in the middle of that consultation. Administration came up with an idea. This is where they want to move forward. We as an advisory committee give our opinion back on it. One of the problems and one of the reasons your community is having a harder time is we haven't had an ABC representative this yet for a very long time. So you don't get the direct back and forth all the time. And I'm really happy to see that a lot of people are now organizing, and hopefully we can get an ABC member on the committee as soon as is humanly possible.
Okay, I'll just remind everyone that this is the time for questions of clarification we can ask of our delegates. We are saving our commentary for later in the meeting, but if we have questions or comments for our questions for our delegates. Thank you, Kevin. Okay, do we have any other questions of clarification for our delegates at this time? And like I said, please feel free to either speak up or use your virtual hand because almost everyone is frozen for me. My apologies. So do we have any further questions? I'm not seeing any at this time. Okay. I'm not seeing any questions at this time. So thank you very much, Mr. Lawson, for your presentation. I will be accepting your delegation for information. So thank you very much for attending. You are most welcome to continue to stay for the meeting. You won't be able to participate further, but you're free to stay and watch if you like. And if you'd like to go on with your evening, you're free to do that as well, of course. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Chair Rafik, I think that you were muted there.
Yes, sorry. My apologies, everyone. I'm having difficulties tonight. Okay, so next up for our next delegation, we have Lori, Gray, and Matthew. So again, Superintendent Jacobs will be our timer. He will give you a wave when you've got 2 minutes, your 2-minute warning. Afterwards, committee members will have a chance for questions of clarification. So please go ahead whenever you are ready.
Nerd alert, quirky, keener, teacher's pet. Those are labels people use when they think of kids like me. Labels are easy, understanding is harder. My name is Matthew. I'm here to ask you to understand us. Some people think gifted kids are the ones who finish work quickly, get high test scores, or always know the answer. Those kids are high achievers, but that's not giftedness. Giftedness is not about being better or being ahead, and honestly, it doesn't feel like a gift. It's neurodivergence. Our brains work differently. They don't move in straight lines. They race, they spiral, they dive too deep, they get stuck. We think and experience differently. In a traditional classroom, we're not thriving. We're masking, disengaging, slowly disappearing in plain sight and falling behind in ways that don't always show up on paper. We struggle with mental health and well-being. To relate and not be isolated, we are often targeted. Some of us stop trying, stop speaking, stop believing we belong anywhere at all, losing what makes us uniquely us. We are hearing that we shouldn't get involved because this change doesn't affect those of us currently in the program. Instead, we are bravely getting involved because we refuse to see other kids suffer. I'm speaking from experience. The traditional classroom affected me so deeply that I left this board. Not because I didn't care, because no one else did. No one answered, no one intervened, despite knowing. Those same systems, same people, and same roles is what is now being presented as the solution. Every day felt like something I had to get through, not something I could grow from. I came back for a place in the congregated classroom, and it changed everything. My learning, confidence, well-being, and my sense of who I am. A safe classroom, safe group of kids, and a dedicated teacher who deeply understands. Some people falsely believe this program is about advantage. It's not, it's access. Let me explain with the shoe store story. Equality is when everybody gets the same shoe size. Fair, right? Except some people limp, some trip, and the odd person is weirdly fine. Equity is when everybody gets a shoe that fits. Different sizes, same goal, everyone can walk comfortably. Same budget, same store, better outcome. Equality is giving everybody the same resources. Equity is providing each person with the supports that they need. We learn differently, and we live with attention challenges, autism, anxiety, and mental health. Our supports help us reach potential. They don't create advantage that didn't otherwise exist. I've heard that it said that there isn't any data to support this program. So I asked. I surveyed every grade 4 to 8 student in the congregated program at my school. So if I understand research methods correctly, I completed a population study of all the congregated gifted students at my school, not just a sample. These are our voices from the inside, and this is what we have to say about the matter. Since joining the congregated gifted program, 91% are satisfied with academics. 93% are satisfied with enrichment. 87% say improve their well-being, emotionally and physically. 74% say improve their overall life satisfaction. That's kids feeling well. That's kids wanting to come to school again. Realize that in a traditional classroom, we struggle to get by, feel engaged, and not get lost in the system. This program is not a luxury. It's our lifeline. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we have the second part of our delegation. So my name is Dr. Lori Gray. I'm here as both a parent and a licensed clinical forensic and rehabilitation psychologist, but more importantly, as someone who sat across from my own child as they unraveled day by day, piece by piece, while a system insisted that it was meeting their needs. I'm the one who had to pull my child out of the sport entirely, not out of preference, but out of necessity, because staying had become harmful. And I'm also the professional who sees this pattern repeat. Bright, complex, profoundly capable children, diminished by environments that do not understand them, and harmed by decisions made without their voices, their families, or the evidence that should guide us. So when you propose dismantling a congregated gifted program, without consultation, transparency, and without regard for the students it serves, this is not an abstract operation or a policy decision. It's a decision that will shape real children in real time with real and lasting consequences, and I need you to understand exactly what that means. Despite myths and assumptions, giftedness does not guarantee performance or success. It does not mean a child will thrive anywhere under any conditions or simply figure it out. That belief is inaccurate and dangerous. Gifted learners think and experience the world differently. They're neurodivergent with distinct learning profiles, heightened sensitivity and empathy, asynchronous development, and increased vulnerabilities such as mental health. Without appropriate placement, they do not rise, they unravel. The Ministry of Education has been clear and consistent on this point. By its own direction, it states that gifted students require, quote, experiences of a depth and breadth beyond those normally provided in the regular school program in order to meet their demonstrated potential. It is also important to understand the implications of the term least restrictive environment as it applies to this group of students. For students with disabilities, a restrictive environment often means too much separation from their peers. For gifted students, however, restriction can take the form of being held back academically. The general classroom can, in fact, become the most restrictive environment. From a clinical lens, appropriate accommodations for gifted learners include, but are not limited to, compacting, telescoping, meaningful enrichment, and like-minded peers. Crucially, these supports should be both fulsome and immersive, not merely differentiated instruction, pull-out programs, clusters, or independent study. Because of this, effective accommodations for gifted students often run counter to the structure of the standard classroom. They require demands that can divide time and attention in ways that strain the classroom and risk detracting from the learning experiences of all students. But in effect, we're battling a ghost. The board relies on the OLSAT, a screening tool. The test developer makes this distinction clear. OLSAT results are intended to be followed by a comprehensive psychoeducational assessment. It's through this deeper assessment that clinicians make informed recommendations whether a student needs immersion in a congregated gifted setting. So we must ask, are we underestimating the needs of these students as a result of the current process? And in keeping with the theme of battling a ghost, I've been unable to locate even a cursory audit or program evaluation for this program within the board. There appears to be no publicly articulated program objectives, nor any clearly defined inclusion or exclusion criteria beyond OLSAT and Wechsler scores from which such a review would normally proceed. Would this not fall within the scope of reasonable due diligence? The board's decision is being framed as inclusion, but it's not. A congregated classroom is in many ways more genuinely inclusive because it ensures fit, belonging, and consistent access to appropriate challenge, not just shared physical space. Inclusion is not simply placing all students in the same room. In a regular classroom model with groupings or pullouts, gifted students are the ones repeatedly moved in and out, never fully part of either setting. That's fragmentation. Invoking inclusion frameworks to justify dismantling these programs misapplies its purpose. Those frameworks were created to address denied access or barriers to mainstream environments, not to remove accommodations from students for whom it was the best fit. True inclusion requires the right environment, not just the same one. Further, I have serious concerns about the evidence used to justify these proposed changes. The board relied heavily on the work of John Hattie, yet his work is currently under formal investigation by the University of Melbourne Research Integrity Office, initiated in March 2026, so last month, regarding allegations of plagiarism and data errors. Similarly, UDL, while helpful, has been positioned by the board as a linchpin solution for gifted learners, despite limited empirical evidence supporting its effectiveness with this particular population. The research base largely focuses on students with disabilities or general education settings, with minimal study of outcomes for gifted students. Its application here remains largely theoretical. And it raises a critical question: would this rationale withstand scrutiny at tribunal or other processes? In contrast, a detailed review of the literature reveals the following. First, that there's strong meta-analytic support for full-time congregated gifted classes. Some of the outcomes include academic achievement, motivation, engagement, self-efficacy, academic productivity, and relationships. Second, the research reveals that differentiation is rarely implemented at depth in traditional classrooms. Third, that immersion with like-minded peers improves academics and isolation. And fourth, that gifted students are of higher risk of mental health concerns under conditions of poor educational fit, social mismatch, and 2E populations. Further, clinical experience shows that inadequate accommodations are closely linked to the onset, worsening, and persistence of both mental and physical health concerns in these students. To be clear, there's no research support that a congregated setting is either contraindicated or harmful. In other words, you nor anyone else has shown that congregation for gifted students is bad. When we consider all the facts, the congregated gifted program should be enhanced and expanded, as it recently had been, not dismantled as proposed. It is the only publicly accessible program of its kind in our country. May I finish the sentence?
Yes.
Thank you. It is the only publicly accessible program of its kind in our county, and for most families, private alternatives are out of reach, creating adverse impact. Removing this specialized environment would disrupt learning, harm students' mental health, and almost certainly increase the need for accommodations, driving up costs and stretching already limited resources. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you both to yourself and Matthew. I'm not sure if Matthew's still right there, but I see a shoulder. Thank you very much, Matthew. We always appreciate hearing from students. Of course, Dr. Gray, we appreciate hearing from you as well, but it's a different level when we have students come and speak to us. So I appreciate your bravery and your engagement today very much. Thank you, Matthew. So I'll ask our committee at this time, do we have any questions of clarification? Kevin, you have a question of clarification for our delegators? Go ahead.
For the rest of the committee, do you want to elaborate what a 2E student is? Because it's something that people may not be familiar with.
Certainly, Mr. Berry. Thanks for the question. 2E is referring to students that have multiple exceptionalities. So commonly with gifted profiles, we see other associated conditions. For instance, autism spectrum, attention deficit related struggles, and also concurrent mental health concerns as well, meaning that the accommodations are geared towards supporting an individual with all of that, and also by preventing the exacerbation of the associated conditions due to inadequate accommodation for giftedness. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions of clarification from committee members? Okay, I'm not seeing any at this time, but like I said, if I'm missing anyone, please feel free to interrupt me at any time. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we will accept your delegation for information at this point. So thank you very much for joining us. And again, please feel free to stay and watch the meeting if you like, or feel free to go on with your evening. But thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up we have Miss Patrick McAnally. So same thing, Superintendent Jacobs will give you a wave when you've got 2 minutes left, and he'll give you that warning. You will have 10 minutes for your presentation, and committee members will have 10 minutes for questions of clarification afterwards. So please go ahead, sir, whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Thank you to SEAC for hearing me out and for listening to my fellow delegates. I want to start with a quote from Minister Calandra this afternoon. He said, "We will continue to unlock student success, support our educators, and build parent confidence that we are working alongside them to help their children succeed." I want to work alongside this board, and I want to feel confident, but when they fail to follow governance, policy, and procedures, don't consult, fail to produce a report that supports their decision, I can't. We have a bibliography now, but we still don't have a review that it should inform. For a decision this significant, it isn't just a communication issue. I think it's a governance failure. So I have 4 crucial questions tonight. 1 on governance and policy, 1 on communication and consultation, systems, data, and research. And I was going to touch on program efficacy and need, but the other delegates have done so very, very well. So governance and policy. Was it operational? Over a dozen volunteer parents and experts on policy, special ed, board and ministry governance, they've combed through documents trying to find something that supports it. We tried and it doesn't exist. But parents shouldn't have to assemble informal networks of experts to understand a decision like this. That's the board's responsibility. Other boards did it right. Why didn't this one? Fact is, it's not operational, but calling it that bypasses governance. Operational is the delivery of a program. Governance is the creation or elimination of it. This is a structural change to program access with significant budget allocation implications executed over a multi-year plan that ultimately eliminates the program. All of this falls under trustee governance and vote with mandatory SEAC consultation and oversight and advice before the decision is implemented, not after. SEAC's role was taken away. They took your voice. Trustees are legally responsible for the program's existence. They took your voice. IPRCs are mandated directives. They're not a matter of convenience or efficiency, yet all requests for grade 4 placement were quietly denied before the decision was announced. They took the voice of trustees, SEAC, parents too. The board's voice has been loud, but being loud doesn't equal being right, and saying something without listening doesn't make it true. So that brings me to communication and consultation. They did it in secret, but it's a public board. Internal communications have been inconsistent, contradictory, even deceptive. Frequent uses of disinformation have obscured reality and deceived not just parents, but trustees, board members, SEAC, and the general public. Superintendent Jacobs is fond of claiming that only 9 boards offer congregated gifted classes, but this is very, very important. In English, 9 boards account for roughly 70% of all English students in Ontario, which means the majority currently enjoy access to congregated programs. The percentage changes if you add Catholic and French, but the superintendent excluded them. He says it's ministry aligned, but the truth is the ministry's direction hasn't changed according to the ministry itself, and we know because we asked them on the record. The ministry aligned direction 18 months ago was to expand the program, not eliminate it, and that was aligned. Most damning of all, the board denied parents and students the chance to speak live at the 25th meeting. They refused to answer nearly all of our questions with clarity, and by removing delegates to a virtual space, blunted the impact of in-person discourse and undermined public accountability. They've taken all of our voices. Now, in fairness, Director Stevens acknowledged that communication had been lacking, though she stopped short of committing to improve. I'm disappointed in that, and I'm disappointed she couldn't be here tonight. So to her, I say, don't do maybe, do better. Stop ignoring us. Stop ignoring students. It goes beyond just disrespectful. For students, being ignored hurts, which brings me to this fact. Not once during that meeting was mental health or well-being mentioned. The board's focus is squarely on budget, academics, and forcing through this decision. By suppressing dialogue, board leadership trivialized students, reduced some of our most vulnerable, emotionally sensitive children to academic metrics, one-size-fits-all math prodigies, and a pithy aside about digits. The board owns this failure, and they owe students an apology for disregarding their voices and their lived experience. Now, I'm going to use my voice to ask for that apology. I might not get it, but I'd love to see it tonight, and I think it should happen in front of the board in public too. So in saying this, I remind everyone here that mental health and well-being aren't corporate buzzwords. Sorry, they're not boxes to be ticked, and you can't just forget about them. They're diagnoses, and their suicide rates. So consider whether or not all of these wonderful, talented, uniquely different students will be better served by placing them all in regular classrooms rather than classrooms that best fit each of their needs. Prescribed not by the board, who doesn't prescribe such things, but by clinical psychologists who do, parents, SERTs, and experts who up until a few weeks ago understood this program was an option. Now, on the topic of being ignored, systems data and research, the board categorically hasn't shown their work. Nobody can even give a clear answer on what the cost per student is for the program. We have a bibliography, but not the review. It leans on internal ministry guidelines and research that openly refutes the decision. Almost all their cited research does this. And the education landscape here is underfunded, undersupported, and understaffed. Mr. Jacobs is on the record admitting to this. The only time on March 25th that anyone demonstrated any confidence in the decision, in fact, was when Mr. Jacobs declared that it was made, it was operational, and no consultation was required. An expert in psychology assessed that demeanor and language as power, control, silencing, and exclusion. And on that note, why haven't we heard from the staff psychologist and SERTs? Their silence is deafening. Reaching a conclusion using only pre-approved, cherry-picked research that supports one preconceived notion is confirmation bias and has no place in any academic setting, even at the elementary level. So until the board shows their work, they didn't do it. Contrast it with the 2016 report from Ottawa Carleton, a nuanced 129 pages, and I read every single one of them. They showed their work, and in so doing, they showed they care. They consulted with parents, students, teachers, admin, experts, even brought in the Association of Bright Children. They all had a meaningful voice, so why didn't we do it here? And by the way, it was ruled policy, everybody. Trustees used their voice, they voted, and the decision was reversed. And I look forward to questions on that tonight because I think they're very, very important. So in closing, You don't get to move goalposts on terminology such as what happens to working with like-minded peers gifted. That's up to psychologists and experts, not the board. And if necessary, it's up to the tribunal. So what happens if you have to take it to tribunal and fight kids using money that should be supporting them? Is that something that the board is willing to do? Governance exists to prevent what has happened here. So let's call it what it is, a decision that disregards vulnerable children that we're here to support. When we choose not to listen to them, harm isn't an accident, it is a choice. And governance can prevent that. So one simple question that informs every other question. Where is the board's documented evidence, consultation, and review for a decision like this? If it exists, it should be public. If it doesn't, the decision is premature, and the harm I just mentioned, everybody here, we can still prevent it. So please use your voice. Take it back and use it. And remember that what we say isn't important. What matters is what we do when it's inconvenient. So preserve the program and demand transparency from this board. Whether it's advice or consultation doesn't matter. Demand it. Give people back their voices. And to be clear, I really, really want to support this board. And I say that to Director Stevens. I say it to Superintendent Jacobs. I say it to Chairperson Rafiq. I want to work with you, not against you, but I can't do that when you take my voice and you take the voice of parents and kids. So to everybody here tonight, again, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. It's very important. And I look forward to the questions you have. I'm sure there's many, and I sincerely hope I'm prepared. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mr. McAnally. Okay, do committee members have any questions of clarification? Kevin, sorry, go ahead. I see your hand whenever you're ready.
Yes, we were referring to the percentage of students that actually can get or have access to congregated classes. She said Director Jacobs didn't include the Catholic boards.
That's correct.
I mean, of that list of boards, it is the only Catholic board that does provide the service is the Toronto Catholic District School Board, to my knowledge. And that was included in the list.
No, so Mr. Barry, Superintendent Jacobs had said 9 boards. So now this is information coming from subject experts. This isn't something that I've pulled myself. 63% of English boards, if you include Catholic, have access. And so this is actually important when it comes down to how we use numbers and how we use statistics. Because when I say 70% of students have access. Now, I'm specific when I say English and excluding the Catholic board and French, because if I include those, the number is lower. And I was sincerely hoping that someone would ask me about this because it's so important. Numbers matter and how we use them to direct a message. And we've seen a systemic disregard for using numbers honestly, with integrity and accurately. And I'm sorry, but I'm here tonight to call it out because these things matter and the kids are watching. My own daughter is 11 years old and she asked, why would they do that? And I don't know how to answer that. So maybe somebody here can. Sorry, Chairperson Rafiq, you're muted. I think you might have been speaking there.
Thank you very much. My apologies. Sorry,
No
follow
worries.
up, Kevin?
Oh, I'm still there. That still doesn't really answer the question. I mean, you basically said that superintendent did not include Catholics. And of the 9 boards, there is only one Catholic board that does. And he gave all 9 boards. Or he mentioned all 9 boards. So I'm just a little confused about that, but that it really is not that important. Except in that don't see where the manipulation of numbers was in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll agree to disagree then. I mean, I'm being provided these numbers from subject experts. So if I'm saying 9 and it should be 8 or something, I might have misheard. The fact remains he's saying only 9 boards. And he's saying 9 boards within the context of there being anywhere between 30 and 70, whatever the numbers are, across the province. And that makes it sound like it's a small number. But it's not a small number when you look at the number of students actually served by these programs. The majority of them are served. And as one of the larger boards in the province and a board that continues to grow every year, I fail to see how eliminating a program is aligned with something that the majority of students actually have access to. Now, of course, the rebuttal would be that other boards are looking at this, and that's fair, but decisions haven't been made. And Minister Calandra was actually pretty clear today that student achievement based off of assessed needs was important. And we have multiple MPPs on the record saying that the congregated gifted program is important to them, local MPPs. So, I mean, we can split hairs about number of boards and all of these things, but the fact remains 9 boards sounds like a minority. 70% is a majority.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other questions of clarification for our delegate? Trustee Lloyd, please go ahead.
Thank you, and thank you very much, Mr. McNally, for coming this evening and presenting to us.
Thank you for
I
having me.
just sort of wanted to go back. You referenced Ottawa Carleton District School Board, and you've referenced the boards in your last answer that are currently offering the program.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to bring into your attention or find out if you're aware that Mr. Calandra has also been very, very clear on the trustee role, where it starts and where it ends. And Ottawa Carleton District School Board, who you referenced, in light of some of their overstepping outside of their governance role, were put under supervision by the ministry. Mm-hmm. And some of the boards in the GTA that you reference who offer the gifted program are also under supervision now with the ministry. And those boards are having sweeping program changes implemented by ministry appointed supervisors. So I just wanted to sort of find out if you were aware of that, because, you know, when you bring that point forward, I think it needs to be in the context of what's transpired in those boards right now, because they are, Mr. Calandra has stepped in to take over those boards and appoint supervisors to those boards.
Yeah, I'm thrilled that you asked me that question, Trustee Lloyd, because it's actually extremely important that everybody here understand there's a significant difference between being put under supervision due to financial mismanagement and being put under supervision for trustee overreach. And this is an instance not of trustee overreach, and that's unequivocal. It had nothing to do with that. It had to do with financial mismanagement. Now, we can, again, going back to splitting hairs or whatever term you want to use, the reality is the trustees used their voice as they're directed to do. They took a vote according to long accepted policy. Nowhere, anywhere, was it ever insinuated that Minister Calandra's decision to put the board under supervision was directly related to congregated programs or congregated gifted specifically. So again, I mean, this is an instance of taking one bit of information and trying to use it to obscure what's actually happening. So what's really, really important is that the OCDSB comparison actually proves the opposite of what you're suggesting. So we had an 11, I say we, I've never lived in Ottawa, I have no relation to them. It was an 11-to-1 vote against phasing out congregated programs. Supervision followed because of financial mismanagement. Causation, correlation, not the same thing. We all know this that are here tonight. Now, one could maybe try and insinuate that the financial mismanagement is related to having too many congregated gifted programs or too many congregated special ed programs. I mean, that's a conversation for a different time, and I would argue well above my pay grade. But if Superintendent Jacobs, Chairperson Rafiq would like to afford me an extra 10 or 15 minutes to walk everybody through this, I'm more than happy to and able to. But I don't think that we have the time. But suffice to say, supervision was based off of finances, not trustee vote. The trustee vote was correct. It should have happened. And to imply that it wasn't is to somehow insinuate that being lockstep with a board is what trustees should do. And that's not governance. Governance is asking challenging questions, finding out why decisions are happening the way they're happening, consulting with parents, experts, other stakeholders to make sure that students, and that's the most important thing, students are being best served and best represented.
Thank you, sir. So I will just, Trustee Lloyd, I see you have a follow-up, so I'll absolutely come to you for that. I just want to make sure everyone is aware we have 2 minutes left for this portion, and then we will need to move on. So Trustee Lloyd, if you have another question of clarification.
I'm fine if we're short on time, moving on to somebody else, if that's needed.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mr. McAnally? Okay, I don't see any. So Trustee Lloyd, if you would like to ask your question quickly, and then Mr. McAnally, if I can ask that you have a quick response so we can say in our 2 minutes,
Sure.
That would be great.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank Mr. McNally for bringing you back around to the governance role and financial management, because I think that is a very important key part in all of this, because the ministry is expecting that trustees, when it's a decision that's within our purview, that we make those that are good governance decisions, and we're financially accountable, as that's a key piece of the role. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree 100% on that, Trustee Lloyd. And again, I think it's very, very important. Now, at the end of the day, if funding isn't viable, let's call it what it is and say that it's a funding decision. I'll go back to communication. I was told by Superintendent Jacobs that it wasn't budgetary, that it had nothing to do with funding. I was told by Chairperson Rafiq that it was in fact related to funding. And I have the emails to support this, so I'm not pulling this from thin air. And numerous parents can say the same. So, you know, it's honestly, it's frustrating to me that there would be a suggestion that somehow the existence of congregated programs within a special education, the wider special education program, are responsible. It's just not true.
Okay, so that is time. Thank you very much, Mr. McAnally, for your engagement this evening.
Thank you all for listening.
I will be accepting your delegation for information, and the same as I've said to our other delegates, if you'd like to watch the rest of the meeting, you're of course welcome. But if you'd like to go on with your evening, I understand that as well. So thank you very much. Okay, all right, so we have one more delegation. So we have Juliet Sharon and Sky B. Sky B, I believe you will be speaking, and I'll just remind you, if you want to omit your last name from anytime you're speaking, we would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Go ahead. Oh, and I'm sorry, I should have said the same things that I said before the other delegations. My apologies. So Superintendent Jacobs, I'm sure you're familiar with this now, but I want to be fair to everyone. So he will give you a little wave when you've got 2 minutes left. And then so you'll have 10 minutes, and then we'll have 10 minutes for questions of clarification from committee members as well. So Sky, whenever you're ready, please feel free to go ahead.
My name is Sky, and I'm 17 years old. I am 2E, which means twice exceptional. I'm diagnosed professionally with autism spectrum disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, and giftedness. I'm speaking today as a former student in the Congregated Gifted program and as the older sister of 2 siblings in this board, one in grade 4 and one in grade 7, who are also twice exceptional and in the Congregated Gifted program. We are 3 real children who were all told to go to the congregated class because our teachers felt that they couldn't support our needs in the D-Stream program. We attended 3 different schools in the ward, 3 schools that told us that they could not support our 2E needs, and we appreciated their honesty. My mom and I wrote this delegation together. It reflects our family's experience and 55 families who responded to a parent survey that we created to show you what gifted families in SCDSB are experiencing. Mr. Jacobs claimed that more than half of our gifted learners are being educated successfully in their home schools. This claim is implied only by numbers and is not backed by real evidence as far as I know. Our survey will give SEAC and the board some insight into this. The survey metrics are attached. Gifted children are vulnerable because their needs are often invisible. This might appear as bright, capable, and academic learners, while at the same time struggling socially, psychologically, and developmentally in ways that are easy to miss under the untrained teacher's eye. People assume that being gifted is a privilege. They hear that word and they think that school should be easy and that you should excel. But for many of us, this is not the reality. Mr. Jacobs gave the example of enrichment for gifted students. 6-digit math, while the other classes might do 2 digits. This is not the reality. We live with asynchronous development. Our intellectual development can be far ahead of our ages, while our emotional regulation and development are still that of a child, and sometimes even younger than expected for our age. This uneven development is mismatched and creates perfectionism, frustration, rigidity, anxiety, shutdown, and depression. My French immersion grade 3 IEP allowed me colored paper to create paper chains to decorate the classroom and halls when I finished my work. I became a recess teacher helper. Why? Because I related to no one my age. I did not have many friends. My brothers were given extra worksheets and extra sentences, no time with gifted peers, and they were advised to tell none of the other students that they were gifted. Gifted and neurodivergent children often learn very early to hide distress, suppress frustration, disconnect, underperform, and shrink themselves to fit into an environment that doesn't fit them. We call this masking. One young girl told us that she fears for her safety at school because she doesn't always remember to wear her mask. Speaking through tears, she said that she struggles to be different every single day. Masking can look like compliance. The student may seem quiet, capable, and manageable in the classroom, but they can come home exhausted, dysregulated, withdrawn, angry, and anxious. I am living proof of this. Some will hate school. Some stop engaging altogether. Some start to hate themselves. This was my life from grade 1 to 3. I learned quickly that it was so much safer and easier to hide myself. I masked so well that my suffering became internalized. I was riddled with anxiety. Then my grades dropped and I began to shut down. Not all harm is loud, immediate, or visible at school. And not all children can mask. Some can't stop being themselves, and that puts an even bigger target on their back. These children are having intense emotional breakdowns in class over the slightest failures, and they can go from 0 to 100 very quickly. They are unable to hold back their stims or tics. They are unable to stay still. They're gapping out during lessons, and like my brother's experience, they are being punished and humiliated in front of their peers for the things outside of their control. Their teachers genuinely did not understand them and did not have the training or resources to help them. When a child is misunderstood, isolated from like-minded peers, and trying to fit in every day to a place that doesn't fit them, anxiety isn't surprising. It's a guarantee. For many gifted children, academic fit and social fit are deeply connected. When intellectual needs are not met, social and emotional well-being suffers too. Many only begin to feel safe, understood, and connected when they are surrounded by like-minded peers who think and learn in similar ways. In the Cookstown Congregated Gifted class, I found my people. A group of kids that I am still friends with today, some of whom I attend high school with now. Like a fellow delegate, I did have to leave this program to receive the support that I needed in high school, as did some of my other peers in Cookstown. I now travel 80 minutes every single day to a school outside of Simcoe to attend a school that can support me. There is no bus. Gifted families in my area come together and we carpool every single day. Within SCDSB, I was told that the local high school could not appropriately accommodate my gifted, ASD, and GAD needs. They told me that I would quietly fall through the cracks in the D-Stream grade 9 class setting, and that speaks volumes. High school gifted learners are leaving the board to seek support because this board is removing those supports. And this isn't correlation, it's causation. More students may begin to leave this board if congregated classes are removed. I have visited Cookstown since my graduation, and it feels like I'm walking back into my childhood home, even if I don't know the newer grade 4s or 5s there. It feels like they know me and I know them, because we all know each other in a sense. We all know that when we walk into that class, we're walking into a place where we belong and we're safe. Not somewhere where our peers or teachers will make us do all the work, not somewhere where we will be criticized for our failures, mocked for our successes, or bullied for our differences. My teacher taught me that everybody is standing on the shoulders of giants, that other people lift us up even if we don't realize it. and now it's my turn. The gifted program and the two amazing teachers helped me learn that who I am is not something I need to fear or hide. They are two of the most inspirational people I have ever met. I no longer feel like the odd one out. In Cookstown, I found teachers who understood me, challenged me, taught me how to learn and how to fail, helped me regulate, and helped me through some of the most difficult years of my life. They did not just teach me academics. They helped me feel less alone. I stopped masking, and only then did I discover that I have autism. I could finally be myself. They inspired me to become a teacher, and I want to help and support other children as they did for me. And I'm so thankful that my brothers are now having the same experience. Being grouped with the older students showed me the way, and younger students to mentor was a huge social support and learning experience for all of us. We tend to have some social anxiety. This matters because the Congregated Gifted program is multi-grade. Students benefit from being part of a larger community with their true peers. The claim that this phase-out will not affect current students is misleading. The board has said this repeatedly, but it is affecting them. They are scared, and as somebody who isn't even in the program anymore, I'm scared too. If no new grade 4 students are allowed in, this program will shrink year after year as students graduate. By the time the grade 4s reach the upper grades, they could only be left with 5 or 6 same grade peers, and the multi-age classroom that makes the program so vulnerable will have already been gone. My grade 4 brother won't get to mentor his younger peers, and it's highly unlikely that a financially responsible board would continue these classes if only 5 or 6 of children are there. So, how will this board keep this program open to those in it? The multiple assurances that our current congregated gifted learners will not be impacted seems to be intentionally misleading, or the board has not thoroughly thought this phase out through. We will attend your March 25th board meeting, and we did not feel reassured. Now to the survey. We separated our survey responses by current placement, and the difference is very clear. One question was, are your gifted children's strengths and needs being equally supported? 22 out of the 25 families in congregated gifted classrooms says yes. In the homeschool and regular classroom, only 3 out of 26 families said yes. This is not a small difference. 341 gifted children learning in their homeschools program does not equal 341 successfully educated and supported children. This board has cited what inclusion can look like in theory, while families are describing their children's experiences, and those two things are not the same. I urge you all to read the 30 feedback responses in the survey. Putting gifted children back into unsupported regular classrooms does not make them more included. This makes their needs easier to overlook, and this leads me to my next question. What special needs group of kids is next? Gifted children have special needs. On the bell curve, gifted children are as far up at the end, just as statistically, if one parent and one student can gather relevant survey information in 10 days from an online community survey, as Matt pointed out, why is the board not doing the same before moving towards the phase-out? Why was SEAC not consulted first? Was it an operational decision? The Ministry of Education said they didn't make the decision. So who did and why? Please do the right thing and pause this process. Please ask the questions. Ask me the questions. I'm here to answer them. Release local evidence and rationale behind it, or pause it and seek the evidence. Consult with families across placements. We want to help you. We can work as a community and reduce the number of bus stops. We can fundraise. We can create a pilot test and real plan before the phase out. Show us that you can improve the homeschool gifted supports first and preserve access to congregated gifted classrooms. If we really do stand on the shoulders of giants, then it's our responsibility as gifted individuals to not pull the ladder up behind us and let the other kids fall. It's to keep creating better and safer ladders so that these children coming after us have somewhere to belong. Every gifted child, past, present, and future, is impacted by this decision, and we're begging for clarity and transparency.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your presentation, Sky. We very much appreciate it. I'll say the same to you as I've said to our other students who come. You know, I know you're a lot closer to adulthood than some of the other students that we've heard from, but we really appreciate hearing from you and for your bravery. You know, to come to a group like this is not easy always, and I really appreciate hearing from you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right. So at this time, do we have any questions of clarification from our SEAC members? Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing any at this time, but like I said, I do still have a lot of frozen faces. So if anyone has anything, just feel free to interrupt me. But okay, all right. It sounds like we don't have any questions at this time, but thank you so much, Sky. Like you said, I really appreciate you joining us this evening. I will be accepting. Oh, sorry, Kevin. I see you waving your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going through my notes. Do you have the results of that, or could you send the results of your online survey to us?
Oh, it should already be sent, but I do have some of the key points.
I just found it. Sorry. I just went through your presentation. It's okay. I did find it. Thank you.
Great. Perfect. All right, so not seeing any other questions. So Sky, I will be accepting your delegation for information this evening. And again, I thank you very much for coming. And like I said to the others, you're most welcome to stay online and watch the rest of our meeting if you like. But if you'd like to go on with your evening, of course, you're welcome to do that as well. So thank you very much. Okay, so I would like to remind SEAC members that there were many written delegations that were also included in your package. I believe we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them that were included in the SEAC package as well for your review. Okay, so I'll just mention to everyone. So we do have a presentation coming up next that has to do with gifted. So there will be a chance for you to ask some questions around in that point if you like. And then of course, under other matters, if you have any questions that weren't addressed, that's a time that members can absolutely ask questions as well. Okay. So at this time, we will move on with our agenda. So that takes us to B, items for decision, which we have none. So then that takes us to C, items for information, follow up from previous meetings. So we have A, SEAC C1A, enhanced enrichment at home schools with Superintendent Jacobs. And Superintendent Jacobs, you can feel free to go ahead whenever you're ready there.
Yes, thank you. And through the chair to the committee, tonight's presentation is about enhancing enrichment at home schools.
Yeah, we're gonna take that.
Sorry, somebody's not mute. Oh, Lynn, you're not muted. There we go. Good. Thanks. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, so it's about enhancing enrichment at home schools. So this will support gifted learners through localized and personalized enrichment opportunities. And we do talk about students that are formally identified as gifted, but I also want to address the students that are in our schools that also need enrichment opportunities. So to frame the main idea, it's about support, ensuring that all staff system-wide are supported and that all students are supported within their classroom. System-wide support is the foundation of this model. So again, my main focus, it was not about the budget. It was about bringing enrichment to all schools in our system because we are so geographically vast. We need to provide enrichment opportunities in all of our schools, and that's going to be done through programming, effective programming. And a lot of research supports this as well. So you'll notice that some of the language of the presentation isn't just focused on that gifted learner, but promotes that concept of enrichment and supporting best teacher practices. So slide 2, which is on already for the agenda. So we're looking at the proposed benefits of enrichment at all schools. So it doesn't matter if you live in Brecken, Agila, any one of the remote areas of our board, there will be enrichment opportunities. And I have been in many schools in our system where gifted identified students were in the regular home school, in the regular classroom, and were well supported and did quite well. So supporting gifted learners through professional development is going to be important. And again, yes, UDL is part of that, differentiation. The IEP is a big part of that. And high impact instructional practices, which is rolled out as part of our professional development. And I just want to remind everyone that the professional development for giftedness and enrichment isn't just been recently. Like we've been doing this for years in terms of rolling out, differentiation, universal design for learning, and high impact instructional strategies. We're also looking at building an enrichment resource hub for SCDSB educators so that they can refer to that, looking at profiles for gifted learners, fostering well-being and success for gifted learners. That's another key part of this agenda, and just continued support for gifted learners and enriched learners now and going forward. So slide 3. So again, this model is aimed to promote equitable access to enriched learning. Some ways that this shift some of this shift includes things like intentionally moving enrichment programming into every home school rather than concentrating opportunities at select congregated sites. As a result, access to enrichment is no longer dependent on a family's ability for transportation, ability to manage distance, and so on. By reducing structural barriers, such as travel time, transportation, we create conditions where more students can participate meaningfully. Equity is strengthened when access is based on student need and potential and not on logistics. And again, the programming is the essential piece here that I want to drive home. Students with a gifted identification are better able to participate fully in enriched learning experiences within their local school communities alongside their peers. It's important to emphasize what is being gained and what remains. So enrichment learning continues through school-based enrichment opportunities, differentiated classroom experiences, and system-wide enrichment events. The focus shifts from where enrichment happens to how intentionally and inclusively it can be delivered in all schools for all students. Stronger sense of belonging, stability, and well-being. I can speak to this because gifted learners that I've had in schools that I've been in, they wanted to socialize. Like they were gifted learners, but they had friends in the community. They played with friends after school on weekends and so on. So it does develop a stronger sense of belonging, keeping gifted learners in their home schools and allows students to remain connected to peers, educators, and school communities. Giftedness is one part of a student's identity, not a defining label. Students remain connected to their peers, school culture, and broader community, and this belonging is intentionally supported across all of our programming. We strive to avoid identifying students solely by their special education designation, recognizing instead the full range of identities, strengths, and experiences each learner brings to school. Reducing transitions between schools minimizes disruption for students and families. Their strengths support collaborative learning environments where ideas are exchanged, perspectives are broadened, and all students benefit from exposure to varied ways of understanding the world. This move looks to celebrate the diversity of learners and identities that we have within our schools and school system. It allows greater access to after-school and extracurricular activities by ensuring students remain within their home school community. This helps students to expand and grow their additional connections and peer relations. Fewer transitions can lower anxiety, support positive mental health, and provide greater emotional stability, particularly for students who may already experience heightened sensitivity or stress. This can be seen in both the transition to and from the program, where students are transitioning into a new school environment with less peer support. Historically, one of the drawbacks of this congregated gifted program is the fact that students transition to a secondary school with less peer support and connections than students who remain at their home school. Remaining in familiar learning environments allows students to build consistent, long-term relationships with teachers and peers. Overall, we feel this approach promotes not only academic growth, but also the social and emotional well-being of gifted learners, ensuring they feel valued, supported, and connected through their school experience. High-quality instruction through Universal Design for Learning, UDL, differentiation, and school-wide capacity building. This shift places a strong emphasis on high-quality, research-based instructional practices that are already recognized as best practice across our system. Excuse me, one sec. So these practices are researched and embedded within the Learning for All, a guide to effective assessment and instruction for all. And enrichment becomes a shared instructional responsibility across all schools. Students benefit from inquiry-based learning, extension opportunities, deeper thinking tasks, regardless of the school they attend. And again, importantly, UDL is not a new initiative within the board. UDL approaches are already using board-wide and are well established as best practice within our classrooms. And not just in the Simcoe County District School Board, all school boards in the province. Teachers regularly design learning experiences with big ideas, multiple entry points, varied ways of representing content, and flexible options for students to demonstrate understanding. This same approach is already evident with congregated gifted classrooms Even though students in those settings all share a gifted identification, academic skills, readiness levels, learning profiles, and strengths vary widely. Teachers in classrooms across the Simcoe County District School Board routinely use UDL and differentiation to provide choice, flexible groupings, and multiple pathways to learning, ensuring all students can access challenge and complexity. Through targeted professional learning, shared resources, and collaboration, more educators are supported to implement high-level enrichment strategies with confidence and consistency. This strengthens instructional practice across the system and ensures gifted learners and all learners experience rich, engaging, and appropriately challenging learning environments. Inclusive mixed ability learning environments. The transition aligns with ministry guidance, urging inclusive settings over segregated placements and keeping students in the least restrictive environment. Documents explain that enriched learning can occur within mixed ability classrooms where gifted students benefit from diverse peers and maintain strong academic outcomes. This supports Ontario's broader movement toward de-streaming and reducing early academic segregation. Next slide. So again, this is foundational learning for all. So again, differentiated instruction. The purpose is to ensure every educator has foundational awareness and easy access to reference materials whenever needed. This level provides a baseline understanding of gifted learners and integrating differentiated instruction for all learners. So NTIP, which is for new teachers, embeds gifted awareness training into their new teacher induction program to ensure new educators enter the system feeling confident and supported. The purpose for this is to build early capacity so new teachers begin their careers knowing how to recognize, support, and extend gifted learners effectively. This level embeds gifted awareness training into the new teacher induction program to ensure new educators enter the system. I read that one. Identifying gifted learning needs through observation and board processes, navigating gifted IEPs and accommodation, introduction to the Simcoe County District School Board's enrichment resources and where to find them, and understanding how enrichment fits within the universal classroom practice. Pre-assessment and curriculum compacting. This level deepens instructional skills and focuses on using data to guide enrichment. So the purpose is to help teachers streamline learning for students who have already demonstrated mastery and provide meaningful challenge through targeted extension. The Simcoe County District School Board approved diagnostics and pre-assessment tools help to determine this readiness, identifying mastered expectations and outcomes, compacting content when appropriate, designing compacting plans for learning contracts, and ensuring enrichment tasks are aligned with curriculum expectations. The last one is enhanced collaboration between departments to meet gifted learners' needs. When resources are being created, there will be enhanced collaboration to meet the needs of students who may require enrichment. So part of this process has involved many departments in terms of student achievement, special education, DEI. So there's been a lot of cross-departmental work on this already. Next slide, please. So building an enrichment hub. So why enrichment lessons? So on this hub, we'll have enrichment lessons and ready-to-use classroom resources that will be valuable for teachers. Enrichment lessons and ready-to-use resources save teachers valuable planning time while offering high-quality standards-aligned activities that enhance student engagement. They allow teachers to focus more on instruction and student support instead of spending hours creating materials from scratch. Extending core instruction with deeper hands-on activities related to current units, providing differentiated options for students who need more challenge or alternative ways to access concepts, aligning with standards and curriculum maps, making it easier for teachers to place them within weekly or monthly instructional sequences, shifting from competition for grades towards the learning process and personal growth. So teachers can insert these lessons during independent work time, small group instruction, project-based learning units, early finisher activities, student-driven independent inquiry units, empower learners to take ownership of their learning while giving learners a structured yet flexible framework that reduces planning overload. These units naturally increase engagement because students explore topics they care about while still meeting curriculum expectations. And it's all motivated by the students' own interests. We're going to continue enrichment events such as the Math Road Rally, Junior and Intermediate Debate, Engineering Challenge, Heritage Fair, Science Fair, and we're looking to expand partnerships. Community partnerships and enrichment opportunities with local community agencies such as the Simcoe County Museum and local libraries to promote enrichment in and outside of school. So the next one is the supporting the mental health, which was referenced earlier. So this graphic is the aligned and integrated model for school mental health in Ontario school boards. School Mental Health Ontario is funded by the Ministry of Education as an implementation support to provide guidance and quality resources to schools, boards across the province in practices that support student mental health. This multi-tiered system of support approach begins with and prioritizes mental health promotion, which is the bottom green area of the triangle. It highlights the critical role that schools play every day in everyday wellness and to enhance student mental health literacy and leadership. This is often referred to as a Tier 1 support and is universally offered at the school and classroom level as part of the daily learning. So teachers co-create learning with students. This enables students to drive learning, co-determine what success looks like, and fosters engagement through their interests. This fosters student agency and voice in their learning journey and allows for diverse collaboration and perspectives, relationships and friends based on common interests and not ability groupings alone. Classroom teachers incorporate learning materials that build identity. Identity is complex and diverse. This gives opportunities for students to have a balanced self-concept and help students explore all aspects of their identity. Classroom teachers prioritize mental health learning as part of the curriculum. They intentionally teach social emotional skills and mental health literacy. Teachers also promote well-being, student engagement, and support students in the use of well-being strategies that work for each unique student. The provincial vision is that students, as an outcome of their experience at school, will understand why and how to care for their mental health, seek help when problems arise, and maintain a strong sense of identity, belonging, confidence, and hope, even when times are challenging. Teachers and schools regularly partner with parents, caregivers to understand student need. When students require further skill building support or support regarding mental health challenges that are impacting the student's ability to be available for learning, classroom, school staff support students and families with accessing support that is available within the school board or community. The OLSAT, so the continuation of universal screening ensures every grade 3 student has an equitable opportunity to be considered for enrichment and gifted programming. It reduces reliance on teacher nomination alone and helps identify students who may be historically overlooked. This helps detect learners who may benefit from intervention or enrichment as they enter the junior grades. And we are continuing the current gifted classes. So students who are already enrolled in gifted congregated classes will remain in their current placement. They will not be required to return to their home school during the transition to a new enrichment model. The board's goal is to ensure that these students experience stability, continuity, and no disruption to their learning or social connections. And with that, take any questions.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Jacobs. That was a lot of information. Okay, so I will look to committee members if you have any questions. And of course, everyone's squares are just kind of reloading for me again, and I'm not seeing a lot of faces. So if you have a question, either please put up your virtual hand or just feel free to speak up and please go ahead. Do we have any questions at this time?
I have a question. Sorry, I was putting my hand up.
Please go ahead. My apologies. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I just had a couple of questions. So I was listening to what everybody was saying, and also I did look at the slides previously. So it did answer a few of the questions that I had, but a couple things that I was wondering. You talked about providing like a professional development for staff. Sorry, I was wondering who's providing that. I know you talked about like the NTIP, new teachers. What about, EAs, SNAs, prep teachers, people like that are coming into contact with these students on a regular basis? I was also wondering like who is going to be creating info for that resource hub? And then, sorry, I had one more question.
Sure.
I was just curious as well, like I know you mentioned teachers were going to co-create with students within the classroom. So I was just curious how you see that rolling out or how people see that rolling out. A lot of our classrooms have, 28 students or more, because I know there's a cap up until grade 3. How do we see that kind of rolling out with students in the classroom that have various and varying abilities? So sorry to kind of put them all together, but
there's a bunch there. Yeah, for sure.
Throw them all out at once and we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I might need some reminder. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, Superintendent Jacobs, go ahead, but I do also see that Principal Francis has her hand up and probably wants to respond as well. So I'll leave it to the two of you to divide and conquer.
I'll defer to Principal Francis.
Thank you, and please feel free to jump in, Superintendent Jacobs, if or when you need to. So a few questions there. I may need some repeats on some of those, but one of them you talked about, who is designing this learning, and that would really come from our special education department. So that would be obviously, with oversight of superintendent and principal of special education information, as well as some of our consultants and facilitators with that gifted portfolio. So that's who would be designing that. We would also be collaborating with other departments. So there's ongoing collaborations that have already started with our student achievement department for literacy and mathematics, as well as mental health, DEI. They have all been involved, and we are actively working together to ensure that there is a really fulsome array of professional learning for staff in that regard. And that would be for the hub as well as for the professional development that's being developed, if that's helpful. I'm just looking for, could you repeat maybe that second question that you had afterwards?
Yes. So actually, I think it was the last one. So just about the co-creation with staff and students, and how do we see that within our classrooms that are already having a lot of challenges?
Yes, thank you for that. That's a very good question, because we can acknowledge that lots of our classrooms, there's a real diversity of needs that exist in all classrooms. And so that's where that universal design for learning and differentiation does come into effect. And really, the importance of providing staff with, the tools and the knowledge to be able to do this effectively. And I can speak to that a little bit as an educator in that, my time in the classroom, although, it has been some time since I've been in a classroom, certainly spent many, many years in a classroom, addressing needs of gifted learners, learners with 2 exceptionalities, various learners on our, different exceptionalities. And what we can see is that it is important to have those multiple pathways. It's really important to know your students. It's really important to look at, what opportunities we can provide, to provide those regular feedback. And those things can be provided very effectively through small group instruction, through appropriate planning, and all of the things that would be addressed through some professional development and equipping staff to really meet those needs of both the academic and the well-being needs of students. I've seen it done very effectively, and so I really do have confidence that this is something that can be done.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have any follow-up?
Thank you. That's okay for now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so I believe the next hand I saw was Trustee Lloyd. So Trustee Lloyd, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And through you to Superintendent Jacobs or Principal Francis, I just have a couple of questions. I think what we've received in a lot of feedback is there are opportunities to enhance at the local school level what we're providing to students. And I think this is what we're outlining, what our plan is to do that. But I have a couple of questions related to that. So there's been some recent announcements of teacher training going back to, instead of a 2-year program, it's going to be 1 year, but 12-month program with more in the class learning opportunities. So I'm wondering if we see that as an opportunity when we have these teacher candidates within our schools and working to enhance their understanding of how to support students and in particular gifted students. So that's my first question. My second question is related to the ministry. One of the many sort of things that were announced by the minister today. It's sort of a bit jumbled, and we're waiting for all the particulars. But one of the things he did announce, and I wanted to look it up to make sure my memory was right. He said teachers will only be able to use ministry-approved resources to ensure consistency across the province. So I'm just wondering if we have any insight into that. So will the ministry be providing lesson plans? The minister made not so positive comments about the curriculum coming out of their own ministry today. And so it was all over the place. So, I'm just wondering if we've had any opportunity around that to get an idea of what the ministry is suggesting when they say that. I know the teacher unions didn't react positively to that today, but I think, these are significant changes that are going to affect us all as we move forward. And, I'm not sure if that means they're going to provide lesson plans for teachers to use or if it's just going to be enhanced curriculum that they're providing. But he was very clear and very specific on that issue in his announcement today. So thank you. 2 questions there.
Thank you very much. I do see Principal Francis' hand again, and I'm not sure which one of you want to get started.
Again, I'll defer to Principal Francis if she'd like to. And I know we have some other individuals. We have former Principal McClellan, who's actually in our faculty ed programs too. So he could maybe even speak to that as well. But I'll defer back to Principal Francis.
Okay.
Absolutely. And so through you, Chair, to the committee, and Principal McClellan, please feel free to jump in as you wish. It's a great opportunity when we have student teachers in our buildings, both to work with them and increase their knowledge and capacity, and also to ensure that our educators hear some of the new things that are coming out of faculties of education. It is something that I personally go and speak to many of the groups through our local Lakehead University from a special education perspective, and have other members of my team do that as well. So certainly that would be a partnership that we would hope to continue, to be able to go into those classrooms and speak directly to those students, both in their education classrooms, and also ensure that they're connected through some of the professional learning and that information that we have in schools. So I do see that as something that is important that we would continue to do. And as for some of those ministry resources and ministry approved pieces, in many cases, we are still waiting for some of that information as well. I know that certainly there's some things that have come up. For example, the new curriculum for history that is being released. And so we are absolutely looking at that history curriculum and considering how do we work to ensure that there are extension enrichment opportunities, looking at the depth and breadth opportunities that can be provided for students for that curriculum. So as that is going to be shared with educators, that is something that is going to be front of mind for how that is shared with all educators. And I think that will support the exceptional students in all classrooms. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump in on that answer, or are we good? Again, everyone's frozen for me, so feel free to say something. All I can see are virtual hands, just so everyone knows. Okay.
All right. Jump in if that's
sorry,
all right.
Go ahead. Please. Yes.
Yeah. So again, this isn't something new. We've been working on this for many years. I know the high impact instructional practices is something we're specifically rolling out in terms of mathematics. And I know Superintendent Fennell and her team has been working on rolling this out to schools. There's also the right to read and a lot of literacy initiatives that have been coming out as well. So again, meeting students where they are, right? They're either at expectation, maybe below expectation, but again, enrichment is supposed to be in all our schools, and that should be provided. And again, it doesn't matter where you are, if it's Brecken, Agila, I know I keep referring to those outliers, but we need to build this capacity in all our schools.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, I have a string of questions along the top. I'm going to go with the order that I see them, but I am just going to point out, Mr. McAnally, I do see your hand up. I have invited you to stay for the meeting, but there is not a time that that you would be able to participate in our meeting at this time. It is my job to make sure we're acting within our terms of reference and our bylaws here. So I'm sorry, I will let you know I will not be coming to you, but you are, of course, most welcome to stay and watch. So Kevin, yours is the next hand I see. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay. After reading the many written delegations and listening to a lot of the presentations, especially by the students themselves, the one thing that the congregated classes have given the students that were able to attend is a sense of belonging and the mental health aspects of it. I don't think it would be that difficult to build in enriched learning on a school by school basis. But how do we replace the sense of belonging? And how do we build that into this new program? I'm not necessarily asking for an answer right away, although I'd love to hear an answer if there is one. But it's something that we really have to concern if we are going to go this route. How do we bring what the students in the gifted program were getting to the school? And most of it, from what I'm hearing, isn't academics. It's the ability to function in a group and to feel they belong to their school and they're not bullied and they're not ostracized and they feel safe.
Superintendent Jacobs?
Yep, so I was concerned, through the chair to the committee. I was a bit concerned when they were told that their needs couldn't be met at the school. Students' needs should be met in their home school environment. They develop friendships in the primary grades. They have to say goodbye to those friends in order to, go to the congregated classes. And, flexible, I haven't been in a school that had a congregated gifted class, but I definitely had students identified as gifted and their needs were met. They got to work together, usually in the library, but they also got to participate on sports teams. So gifted isn't just academics. There's social, there's the arts, there's athletics, there's all kinds of things that they should benefit from. Why should, I even think about the congregated gifted classes, in terms of athletics. Do they get excluded from any type of sport just geographically? The gifted learners wanted to be with their friends that they grew up with for kindergarten, grades 1, 2, and 3. And that was so important to them. And there are opportunities in the school that can be created easily because I've seen it, but there's also the central opportunities as well, right? And, science fair and things like that, that's not just for students identified as gifted. Like, I don't want to overlook all the enriched learners we have. There are remarkable, projects that they present and they're not necessarily gifted. So I want to make sure that we're not dropping the ball on providing enrichment opportunities for all students.
Thank you very much. I see Principal Francis has her hand up as well, so I'm going to come to her, but I just want to clarify something you said there, Superintendent Jacobs. You said you hadn't been in a school that had the congregated classes. So sorry, I just want to clarify. I believe what you meant by that is in your time as a principal. Obviously, you have been in those schools your current role and observed those classes.
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify that. Yes.
You are correct. Thank you for that correction.
Just don't want anyone taking the wrong thing from that line.
Yeah,
Principal Francis, please feel free to go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, through you, Chair, to the committee. I think a couple of things that really resonated with me in those presentations today was about that sense of belonging. And clearly that is, one of the, strategic priorities for our board is to ensure that all students have that sense of belonging. And so when we think about our gifted and enriched learners, we think, how can we ensure that all students in their classrooms feel that they are part of a community? How do we build a culture of belonging within all of those classrooms? And when Sky spoke to that and shared that feeling that when she was in that classroom, it felt like home. We want every student to have that experience. That's the experience we want all of our learners to have. And it is going to be, part of that professional development that has been ongoing. That has been some, more recent work that our board is doing about that sense of belonging. And we are seeing huge growth in that very recently. If we think about some of the information that's been shared around the surveys and that information that has come out recently, it's been very exciting to see that. And obviously some more work to be done and some targeted work in terms of our enriched and gifted learners. But I feel that is something that all students should have, that sense of belonging in their home schools. And that's what we would work to build. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Principal Francis. And yes, thank you for bringing up the school climate data. There's been a lot of great information that came out of that we've been receiving lately. So thank you for that as well. Okay, Sarah Ferguson, I have you next on my screen. Please feel free to go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Through the chair too, I believe it'll go to Principal Francis or Superintendent Jacobs. Just in the information that you guys were sharing about the professional development and the different networks and opportunities for where that information is coming from. What I was hearing was a lot of internal departments or departments within the Ministry of Education. So I'm very curious about how like bodies of empirical research that's outside of both of those bodies is getting embedded into that, because we've in independent research, as well as in reading all the delegations that have been coming, there's lots of research out there, and I'm just curious how that's getting embedded as well and what that looks like.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, through you, Chair, to the committee. So, obviously that is always something that we look to look at best practices and research to inform the decisions we're making around professional development. So whether that be, when we get together as committees to look at, various bodies of research and, this is why there are so many people who, will go through and vet, professional development and have eyes on that to ensure that it really captures that. So often that is, the sharing of research articles, the sharing of best practices, looking at, information coming from the ministry. So it is coming from various sources, and obviously, important from, advocacy groups, SEAC groups, so it comes from a variety of sources, from community partners, and that's really what we use as the foundation from that, those ministry documents and current research, if that answers that for you.
Good. Okay, you're good, Sarah. Thank you. Good. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I actually saw you nod. Oh, sorry. Am I missing Superintendent Jacobs? Did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in there too. And both Principal Francis, Principal Maxwell, they go to principal conferences. I go to Superintendent of Special Ed conferences. And giftedness does come up in our discussions in terms of reviewing and being effective and fiscally responsible. I do have a bibliography of research that I have submitted. I recently added to it. One of the delegates referenced Dr. Jillian Parekh, who was with one of the lead researchers with Dr. Brown at TDSB. She's at York University now. And so it is part of the research, but there are discussions that do take place at principal conferences, superintendents of special ed conferences, and there is quite a bit of research and ministry policy and documents that support, building enrichment and driving the fact home that program is what drives everything. In terms of the individualized education plan, it's program. And I'd like to kind of reframe, why would students who need enrichment or are identified as gifted have to go to one of 6 schools in our board? to get enrichment or gifted programming? Why can't we think of all our schools providing those opportunities, right? So, and that's what we're trying to do here. We don't want to limit all the students that we have to 6 schools in our board.
Thank you very much. Any follow-up, Sarah?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, following along my list at the top there, next up, I have Trustee Grummett. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Perfect, and thank you. I'm through the chair. I'm just going to follow up a little bit on Mr. Barry's question. I would agree that I've heard a lot about worries about belonging and, our students' mental health and, not feeling like they were that they were included and supported in those classrooms. So when we look at students after they leave the congregated programs and they enter our secondary schools, do we look at how they feel when they, again, come to our mainstream schools? Do we look at, does that sense of belonging stay? Does it change again? Is there a shift in the mental health? I'm just curious if that's something that we look at. And I'm not sure who wants it. It looks like Superintendent Jacobs.
I can take it. So through the chair to Trustee Grommet. So those students are already in their schools. They're already in their home schools, typically for kindergarten, grades 1, 2, and 3. And our teachers, I really have a growth mindset about our teachers and meeting the needs of all our students. So they should have a good handle on whether or not, their mental health is being taken care of in the school environment. We have had students go to the congregated gifted class and then come back as well. So our teachers assess academics, reading, writing, math, but they also assess their sense of belonging, right? And we have made tremendous progress in terms of our school's climate survey and just the overall sense of belonging in all our schools, which is incredible, right? And so if they have peers for kindergarten, grade 1, 2, and 3, why would we need to take them out of that school so that because they're gifted identification or they have to go to another school for it? That doesn't make sense to me.
Principal Maxwell, I see you have, sorry, Trustee Grummett.
Sorry. No, thank you. And then I just wanted to talk, thank you, Superintendent Jacobs, that's helpful. And I don't know if we can speak to this tonight, but in one of our delegations, they talked about we had expanded the program at one point. I don't know if that's something that you can share tonight, or maybe you can get back to me. But is that accurate? Was there an enhancement, and then we looked at why? I don't know if you could speak to that, Superintendent Jacobs.
Trustee Rafiq.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Feel free to go ahead, Superintendent Jacobs.
Sorry.
And then Principal Maxwell, I'll come to you after that. I feel like you would like to respond to the secondary school aspect. So we'll come back to you after that. Mm-hmm.
All right. So through the chair to Trustee Grummett. So we did add 2 classes to Ferndale, and that was before my being in this position of Superintendent of Special Education. But again, what I'm trying to achieve is expanding it in all our schools, where students that are gifted do not have to get on a bus or be driven to another school. There's no reason why students in a school in Alliston, why can't that student stay in that school and get enrichment and gifted learning opportunities in that school? The program, not the placement, is what drives achievement for our students. And that's what I'm trying to get across here. Again, we only have 6 schools in our elementary out of 89 that have it. Why can't we build that capacity in all 89 schools, right? Through effective teacher practice.
Okay, thank you so much.
I believe Principal Maxwell wanted to respond to your earlier question as well, Trustee Grummett. So Principal Maxwell, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yes, so I was just going to respond, or through the chair to Trustee Grummett. I just wanted to kind of respond over a few things from the secondary perspective. So when we look at the most recent school climate survey, we see like very high rates that have come forward on that sense of belonging and that sense of voice within the school have been really increasing over, I would say, the last 5 to 6 years as big indicators of how our students are feeling connected. Being in a secondary school, the other part I would say that is really, you see a lot of students through interest-based programming. So something like our SHSM, where they start to explore through the different pathways their own interest in, maybe it's health and well-being or health and wellness, or it could be through an automotive program or construction SHSM. But they have those different pathways to move forward. So they have that huge connection once they get into the secondary school. And the one other one I would always highlight is the diversity of extracurriculars that come with the secondary school, where kids can always find a place within the different programs that are offered. But I would say when we think of how students re-engage in, like when they return to a secondary school, like the school climate survey, the programs that are available and the extracurriculars that are kind of offered, you do see that huge connection and like finding like-minded peers that way too.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, I see Trustee Strawn. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Rafik. I have a couple of questions, maybe a comment. But my first question would be around the cost, and I kind of asked for some clarification in the delegation, but I just feel like maybe there's some, sorry for my noise. I think maybe there's some confusion around the numbers of the cost, because I felt like the 2 million number was referring just to busing. Can I just get some clarification on that? And then further to the cost matter being discussed, I understand Superintendent Jacobs in the presentation and subsequent comments, you have outlined that cost is not the factor and it's not your, like the reason why you're advancing these changes to the congregated class program. But I also know you talked about all of the other departments within the school board who have had some input on this decision making, and obviously finances is something that is considered. And so I guess I'm wondering, like, if money were not an object, would we continue this stream of the congregate gifted program classes? And then further to that, I also definitely have heard what you've been saying around how every school should be able to offer enrichment. And my follow-up question to that is, especially as it relates to the question of belonging and student well-being, could we do both? Like, we see that many students choose not to access the congregate classes, even though they have an identification as gifted. Some is because of logistical reasons, and others are because of those community connections, the school connections, and they just want to stay in their homeschool. But obviously we have others who are choosing to, you know, take that long bus ride or get that drive to the school. So kind of getting an understanding of how we account for that. And then finally, on the same thought, is just around how we assess student well-being. We use the school climate survey. Minister Calandra, as part of his announcement today, said that schools would no longer be required to do a school climate survey. So, like, I'm at a loss for how we're even going to determine how students are doing, because we're running out of mechanisms to collect that data and analyze it. And if all we have is standard tests that say, yes, you meet the provincial expectation, or no, you don't, like, that doesn't give us any information about student mental health and well-being. So I know that's a lot packed into one, and I feel like it's kind of all connected, and I hope that maybe you'll be able to answer the question.
Thank you very much, Trustee Strawn. Sorry, I am going to interrupt for 1 second. So it is 8 p.m. We do have to have a motion to go past 8 p.m. I'm very careful before I try to ask for a motion to go past time, but I do think this is a very important discussion that we are having. So I would be at this time looking for a motion to extend our meeting. And like I said, if someone could verbalize for me, I'd really appreciate it because everyone's frozen for me. So
I will. I put forward a motion that we extend time on the meeting to let this conversation conclude.
thank you very much. And do I have a seconder for that motion? Verbally by chance?
I would second that.
Question. I'll second.
Thank you very much. Okay. And then all those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you very much. I'm starting to see movement. I will just let everyone know that I just got new internet, which is supposed to be much better. It's not really working out that way. Okay, so I will say that motion carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Superintendent Jacobs, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
So through the chair to Trustee Strawn. So again, money wasn't the motivating factor for this decision. It is basically the least restrictive, most inclusive opportunities for all our students in their home school. The money in special education stays in special education to support students. There is a fiscal responsibility component. There are some logistics, and we look at efficiencies. Again, student achievement, mental health and well-being, it really comes down to teacher instruction for the achievement part, but it also comes from teacher relationships with students. We don't need a school climate survey to assess students, feeling safe in their school. Our teachers with their relationships with students, they should be able to assess, if they're disengaging, if they're anxious. I'd like to think the parents are also working with the teachers in terms of, that communication that takes place between the home and school to make sure, students do feel that they belong. All our schools should be safe learning environments for enrichment, for students that have identifications for giftedness, and so on. So it's not a clear answer, I guess, to the money part, but the special ed envelope, that money would stay in so that we could use it to support students in their home schools. You had a bit more in your response, though. What was there something else I could kind of speak to?
Something else, Trustee Strawn?
I guess just from my perspective, and I really truly appreciate the growth mindset that you have, Superintendent Jacobs, and I agree philosophically with you as a parent with 5 children in the system. I know it's not always the case, and so I think we have to, for all of our students with exceptionalities, not just giftedness, we do need to be paying special attention, in particular, to how instruction is provided and how students' needs are being met. It's critical. And I only, if the chair would allow, I have one last comment. I don't know if this is the appropriate time for it, but we did hear from delegates about conversations with MPPs and promises from the minister. And I'm just wondering if this SEAC can correspond with the ministry just to get a clear understanding and outline of expectations, and once again, ask if there's additional funds available to support student learning and particularly special education needs in our classrooms throughout all of our schools.
Superintendent Jacobs, did you have something to share there?
Well, I might defer that one to you, but I do know our Special Education Advisory Committee, as mentioned earlier by Kevin, is that letters have been written, and we receive letters from other boards pertaining to that as well. So I feel that our SEAC has reached out around funding again to better meet the needs of all our students. Sorry, that was probably for you, Bren. Trustee Rafik.
No, I would just echo the same that we have written letters very recently. I was very surprised when I heard the feedback as well from our MPPs that they had not had any requests for additional funding. I right away followed up with the letter. I sent them all the letter that we had sent as a committee that we sent just recently, and it was CC'd to all of our local MPPs as well. So I did send that letter to them, and I reminded them of that. We did receive a letter back from the ministry just recently after we sent that our letter, and it was really just a regurgitation of them letting us know the funds that they had given us. I am always open to sending letters and asking for more funding. So anytime that anyone wants to do something like that, I would be supportive for sure. Okay, Trustee Tron, if you're good there, then I do see Trustee Foley's hand. So Trustee Foley, whenever you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this is to Superintendent Jacobs. I was really moved by a couple of our delegators and students talking about how they feel comfortable in the current programs and the changes that have occurred in their lives. I mean, it really becomes an issue of mental health. And I think that's something we really have to look at. I mean, to do such a dramatic change for so many of these students, I mean, are we going to be following this up? Are we going to be, doing an overview over the next year and see was the right decision made? I mean, there is a significant concern about, when you feel safe in a place because you're not being bullied, you're with your team. It's like taking, two kids from the minors and putting them in with the junior A's. And I mean, it's unsettling. And I understand how one of the youngest delegators felt. And I can see that becoming a significant area of concern, consternation, and anxiety. And I wonder if we'll be causing additional problems by making such moves so quickly without having the proper consultation, both with parents and students about doing this. And, mental health is such a fragile thing. And, we have IEPs in place. And are we meeting the needs of the IEPs by doing what we're doing? I mean, those are concerns. And if this program isn't working and the reevaluation is that these kids are feeling out of sorts and not well in a year's time, are we going to move this back? I understand you want to keep everything in place in one school, in each county or town. That's a wonderful idea. But if it doesn't give that sense of well-being and security, are we doing our students a disservice? I'm just going to read you a quick quote, and I'll tell you who it's from in a moment. The education system runs on logic. A student who masters algebra in 2 weeks sits through 8 more weeks because the calendar says so. A student who struggles gets dragged forward because the schedule doesn't wait. Neither is being served, both are being processed. Allow people to progress at the fastest pace they can or are interested in each subject. And that's from the richest man on the planet. That's a quote from Elon Musk, a veritable genius who himself went through many trials and tribulations of the same type. And I wonder, what are we going to do to make sure we're doing the right thing? Because we didn't consult with parents. This survey these students have done, have we taken that into account? Have we looked at what they've brought up? I mean, there are a lot of things. It seems like the board's moving forward without having done a lot of homework with the people that are really meant to be helped. And that leaves me a lot of mental health concerns, especially since we have to design specific educational plans for these students, right? And so now, the younger siblings of some of these students will be looking at what they got versus what they're going to get. And that's a really big concern. There is a big mental health component here. And how are we going to address it? How are we going to reevaluate what we're doing? That's pretty well it in a nutshell.
That's not a big question, Trustee Foley.
No, thanks. Try
Go
to make
ahead,
it smaller. I have like pages and stuff, but I'm keeping it down because I listen to Mr. Berry and I listen to other people talk about the same thing. But the mental health component to me is one of the most concerning, for these students. I'm done.
Superintendent Jacobs.
Through the chair to Trustee Foley. Thank you for the question. So yes, I am superintendent of special education, but also mental health and well-being. And I'd like to think as trustee, you'd want to see well-being, mental health and well-being addressed in all of our schools and not just left for 6, right? We have a lot of students out there that have, let's say, gifted identification. We have a lot of students that are gifted but don't have the identification. Then we have a multitude of students that require enrichment opportunities, right? So we're building community through kindergarten up to grade 3. Why pull them out of that? Why don't they feel safe in their own school? I think we need to build that capacity. So we are looking at, instructional practices of our teachers for the academic component, but we're also rolling out and embedding mental health and well-being into literacy, numeracy. We want our teachers to make sure that they're well connected to their students. I don't want to see it just in 6 schools. I want to see it in 89 elementary schools. And that's what I'm trying to achieve here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, putting them on a bus to go somewhere, and then they go through congregated gifted, and then they go to secondary, and, maybe not with the peers from the congregated gifted, right? And again, this is a phased approach. We're not accepting new students into the program. So we have students that are going to continue because that's what they're comfortable with. And we want to make sure that stability is maintained. But I want to see in all our schools, tier 1 interventions, instructional practice that meets every student that we take. We are a public system. We have all students coming into our system, and that's where our focus should be, right?
No, through you, Madam Chair, back to Superintendent Jacobs. I mean, that's all commendable and that's wonderful. But I'm looking at the process, and I thought we probably should have been more consultative. I think that's important. And also to look at some of the data that these students have put together. I think we need to take all of that and put it together to do exactly what you're saying, but do it better.
Superintendent Jacobs.
And through the chair to Trustee Foley, I just want to see it in all schools, right? I want to know that the mental health and well-being of all our students, be it identified gifted, not identified gifted, feel comfortable to go to school and feel that they belong. And there's multiple opportunities where kids learn social emotional learning from mixed groupings, right? In society, they're going to have to learn to navigate different people. And so I think working with one another, tier 1 interventions with our teachers, instructional practice, I think we can achieve enrichment and meet the needs of gifted learners, including their mental health. And I do strongly believe this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I did have a couple of questions myself, but I am very aware of time, so I'm just going to skip forward. I do have a motion a time-sensitive motion that I would like to bring to the committee. I have sent it to Assistant Lori Wright so that she could send it to the whole committee right away. I know I'm a learner that needs to read. I can't just listen to a motion and then be able to vote on it. So I have asked Lori to email it to everyone right now so that you would have a chance to look over it, but I will read it as well. So I do have a motion to bring that the Special Education Advisory Committee recommend to the Board of Trustees that the board requests that staff provide an annual report to SEAC, with the report being provided to the Board of Trustees through the minutes of SEAC, beginning in the 2026-2027 school year and for the following 5 years on gifted programming, including the implementation and impact of any changes to program delivery models, access to enrichment and extension opportunities, and supports provided to students with advanced learning needs within regular classroom settings. The report should include how centrally developed instructional resources are being implemented in practice, including how they are used to support instruction and extension for students identified as gifted, how differentiation is being delivered and supported across schools with varying student needs, and how consistency of implementation is being monitored. The report should also include available data on student access to enrichment opportunities, participation trends over time, identified gaps or inconsistencies in service delivery, and the evidence being used to evaluate the effectiveness, equity of access, and outcomes of gifted programming across the system. So I'm hoping that that email has made its way to you. My phone was beeping, so I'm sure it went out. I'm hoping everyone had a chance to look at it there. So that is the motion that I would like to bring forward, and I would need a seconder for that motion. And again, oh, I saw Trustee Lloyd. So thank you. I see it is seconded by Trustee Lloyd. So I will ask any discussion or questions or anything on that.
Can I just
Okay, I'm not.
Sorry.
Yes, please go
I don't
ahead.
know where my hand icon is. My apologies. Can I just ask, how are we going to be getting this data? Is it going to be from students, from parents, from families, or is it just going to be Simcoe County staff?
So I believe actually I will defer to Superintendent Jacobs and to speak of how you would fill the motion if it were to move forward.
So through the chair to the committee, I'd be working with research. We've already been working with student achievement to look at how this look at how we're going to capture the data. I know in the schools, there's academic achievement, but that's only one aspect. So I'll be working with research. They haven't seen this motion yet, so I will be speaking with them to see what we can do to capture it in a report so that we can report back to SEAC.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or discussion on the proposed motion? Trustee Lloyd, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. And I just want to say, I think, that we have had feedback and, we really appreciate the people who've taken the time to share their feedback and tell us their concerns and their experiences. And I think that, I think it's really important that if we are moving forward with this, that we do take the time to take that step back, reevaluate how it's going and how the implementation has gone, and then figure out maybe best practices or next steps with respect to this. So I think it's a great motion, and I think it will, it will bring it back to this table for people to have a more fulsome discussion as well.
Thank you very much, Trustee Lloyd. Yes, I've spoken to a lot of people. I've been emailing with a lot of parents and spoken to a lot of parents on the phone over the last few weeks, and I've really been listening to stories, and I really do hear and understand what people would like to see happen. So my thought with the motion is that I understand that people would like to see the change stop from happening, and that's not necessarily what is happening here. But I do believe that what we're asking for here will give that accountability and transparency in the process over the next 5 years that people are looking for. Okay, so again, everyone's kind of frozen for me. So if there's any other questions or comments on the motion, please feel free to interrupt me. But otherwise, I will call the question. And I'm just going to hope some squares come alive for me, but I will call the question, all those in favor. And if you could keep your hand up for a moment so I can try and see people, I would appreciate it. Okay, so Lori, I'm going to have to defer to you on this. I can't see, so I'm going to ask you if the motion carries.
Madam Chair, I would ask that Mr. McNally please take that sign down. It's very inappropriate, and I'd either ask they take it down or I leave the meeting.
I'm so sorry. I can't even see what you're referring to.
Okay, I think where Mr. McNally's taken it down, so thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. My apologies. I couldn't see. Okay, so Lori, like I said, I will ask if you can let us know if the motion carried. So I will ask everyone again. All those in favor of the stated motion?
Sorry, bear with me, please. I have to scroll through here. I only see 3 hands, Chair Rafik. Oh, here we go. 3,
I see
4.
1, 2, 3,
It carries.
4, 5, 6,
Yeah,
7,
carried.
8, 9.
Thank you.
So it carries then. Thank you very much. I really do apologize, everyone, for my internet struggles. Like I said, I just bought more expensive internet and I really thought that it would behave better. So my apologies. Okay, so the motion does carry. So I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. We have had a lot of discussion around this. I believe we've had some movement forward, but I do want to move on in our agenda. We are at 8:20. We will have to have I believe we have to have another motion to extend if we hit 8:30. So I'm going to try not to let that happen. So I am going to move on our agenda to staff reports. So SEAC C2A proposed dates, times, and formats for the 2026-2027 SEAC meetings with Principal of Special Education Tyson Maxwell. So Principal Maxwell, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yes, I will try to keep this brief too. Attached to the package is outlining the dates and format for the 2026-2027 Special Education Advisory Committee. So in March, SEAC members completed a survey to indicate their preference format for the 26-27 school year. And from those responses, there was a decision made to do virtual for the meetings all of next year. And then attached to this, we have the meeting times, which will be starting at 6, a start time, I preferred for 6. And then also attached is the dates for meeting dates for next year.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions or comments on that? It's funny, now people's hands are frozen up for me, but I'm sure that's from the voting, not from right now. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to verbalize. Okay, doesn't sound like any at this time. So thank you very much, Principal Maxwell, for that update. Okay, so moving on in our agenda, we have no committee reports. Do we have any SEAC member updates? And again, I will either say, please put up your virtual hand or just start speaking. Feel free if anyone has anything to share. Okay, so would I be correct to say no SEAC member updates at this time? Okay. All right, so moving along next in our agenda, board member updates. And I usually do a much better job at communicating with my trustee colleagues. Trustee Lloyd, can I put you on the spot there for that one?
Well, that's a bit of a loaded question after the ministry announcements today. I think there's a lot to come and a lot to go through moving forward. I think the announcements today are not effective immediately. I think that's really important to stress to people. The regulation has to be introduced and all the information to come forward. But they're proposing significant changes to governance, to leadership at school boards, with respect to, as I previously said, educators have to now use ministry provided resources for teaching in the classroom. So there's a lot was announced. There was a lot of things that he didn't address in the press conference he had. So I think for now, I'm best just to stay. We'll bring an update in a month when we know a whole lot more about what is happening with school boards.
Thank you very much. And I'll defer to our other trustee on the committee as well. Trustee Strong, did you have anything that you wanted to add for board update?
No, I'll just leave it with Trustee Lloyd's update. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So moving along in our agenda. So we did not have a golden buzzer this evening. I know it's one of our favorite parts, but we wanted to be respectful of everyone's time. So we'll return to that next month for sure. So we did have some correspondence. So we have a letter there from the TDSB SEAC about reoccurring unmet needs of K-12 students with disabilities and special education needs. So these letters are attached to your package to read. We also had one from the TVDSB SEAC. So their letter was regarding the removal of trustees in provincially supervised boards. And then we had a letter from the SCDSB SEAC. And it was regarding the provincial proposal to replace trustees with provincially appointed supervisors as well. Okay, do we have anything for other matters? And again, I will encourage anyone to just please speak if I'm not seeing that you're trying to speak. Okay. Nothing for other matters. Okay. All right. So then that would take us to a notice of motion for next meeting. Anyone have a notice of motion? Not that I'm hearing. Okay, so then that would take us to adjournment. So our next regularly scheduled meeting for SEAC will be on May the 6th, 2026. So I will look forward to seeing everyone then. But so at this time, do I have a mover? Who could verbalize a mover for adjournment for this evening?
I move we adjourn.
Thank you very much, Kevin Barry.
I will second it.
Seconded by Trustee Lloyd. Thank you very much. And I'll call the question. All those in favor? And while everyone's still pretty frozen for me, I'm still going to probably say that we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful evening. I thank you very much for your engagement this evening for a longer night. Thank you, everyone.